Sign the sale papers, and demanded. This house pays our retirement. I slid my deed across. Irrevocable trust 2020 $3.4 million. The lawyer froze. This is protected property. Your parents have no authority. Mom's hand shook. Within 24 hours they weren't talking about retirement. But let me start at the beginning. Because the moment my mother tried to sell my house wasn't random. It was the culmination of 28 years of being the child who didn't matter. The daughter who was supposed to be grateful. The one who owed them everything and would never be able to pay it back. My name is Rebecca Morgan. I'm 32 years old. And I've spent most of my life being invisible in my own family. I'm the youngest of 3. My sister Caroline is 38. My brother James is 35. And then there's me. The accident. The surprise. The one they weren't planning for. Caroline graduated from Yale Law. Partner at a major firm in Manhattan by 34. James went to Princeton then Stanford Business School. Private equity now. Both of them live in expensive cities, visit on holidays and get praised endlessly for their accomplishments. I went to University of Washington. Studied computer science. Graduated with no debt thanks to scholarships and working 3 part-time jobs. Started as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle making $78,000 a year. At family dinners, Caroline talked about cases she was winning. James talked about deals he was closing. I talked about code I was writing. That's nice, dear, Mom would say, already turning back to Caroline. The house I grew up in was a 4-bedroom Craftsman in Queen Anne, Seattle. My parents bought it in 1989 for $385,000. By 2015 it was worth $2.1 million. They'd refinanced it 3 times. The mortgage was $3,800 a month. In 2016 when I was 24 they sat me down. Rebecca, we need to talk about the house, Dad said. Okay. We're getting older. The mortgage is expensive. We're thinking about our retirement. That makes sense. Mom leaned forward. We're going to sell. Downsize. Use the equity for retirement. Where will you move? We're looking at condos. Maybe in Fremont. Somewhere smaller. I nodded. Sounds good. The thing is, Dad continued, we'd like to sell sooner rather than later. Within the year. Okay. Which means you'll need to find your own place. I was living in the basement at the time. Paying $600 a month. It was cheap. Convenient. I'd been saving aggressively, putting away $2,000 a month toward a down payment on my own place. How soon? I asked. 6 months. Maybe 8. I can do that. Mom smiled. We knew you'd understand. Caroline and James both moved out years ago. It's time for you to build your own life. What she didn't say. Caroline and James had moved out to Yale and Princeton. I was 24 working full-time and still living at home because it was financially smart. But I didn't argue. I just started looking for apartments. 2 months later I found a place. 1 bedroom in Capitol Hill. $1,800 a month. Not ideal but doable. I told my parents at Sunday dinner. That's wonderful. Mom said. When do you move? End of the month. Perfect timing. We just accepted an offer on the house. I paused. Already? I thought you said 6 to 8 months. The market is hot. We got an offer we couldn't refuse. $2.3 million. But I don't move out for 3 more weeks. That's fine. The closing is in 60 days. You'll be gone by then. I moved out on schedule. Into my Capitol Hill apartment. Started my life as an actual independent adult. 3 months later I drove by my childhood home. There was a sale pending sign in the yard. 6 months later I drove by again. The sign was gone. My parents were still living there. Called Mom. I thought you sold the house. The deal fell through. Inspection issues. They wanted us to fix too many things. So you're not moving? We're relisting. Don't worry about it, Rebecca. A year passed. Then my parents were still in the house. At family dinners they never mentioned selling. Never mentioned downsizing. They kicked me out for a sale that never happened. I never brought it up. I just watched. And I planned. In 2018 I was 26 years old. I'd been promoted twice. I was making $142,000 as a senior software engineer. I'd saved $85,000. Then my company got acquired. Amazon bought us for $890 million. My equity package, $1.4 million after taxes. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not my siblings. Not my friends. I took that money and I invested it. Index funds. Real estate investment trust. A diversified portfolio managed by an advisor who didn't know my family. By 2020, my investments had grown to $2.1 million. That same year, COVID hit. The real estate market went insane. People were fleeing cities, then returning. Prices were volatile. In June 2020, my parents called a family Zoom meeting. "We have an announcement," Dad said. Caroline and James were on the call. I was in my apartment, coffee in hand. "We've decided to sell the house," Mom said. "For real this time." "Okay," Caroline said. "How much are you asking?" "We're hoping for $2.8 million. The market is crazy right now." James nodded. "That's great. You'll have enough for a comfortable retirement." "That's the plan." "Where will you move?" I asked. "We're looking at senior living communities. Something with amenities. Healthcare on site." "Sounds smart." The call ended. I sat in my apartment thinking. My childhood home. $2.8 million. My parents would sell it to strangers. Use the equity for retirement. That house I'd been kicked out of for a sale that took 4 years to actually happen. I called my real estate agent. "I want to make an offer on a property." "Which one?" I gave her the address. "My childhood home." "Rebecca, isn't that your parents' house?" "Yes." "They know you're making an offer?" "Not yet. I want to offer $3.1 million. Gosh. Close in 30 days. That's significantly over asking." "I'm aware. I want the offer to be impossible to refuse." "I'll draft it." 2 days later, my agent submitted the offer. $3.1 million. 30-day close. No inspection contingencies. No financing contingencies. Clean offer. My parents called me that evening. "Rebecca, someone made an offer on the house." "That's great, Mom." $3.1 million. All cash. They want to close in 30 days. "Wow. We're going to accept. It's too good to pass up." "You should. The thing is, we need to be out in 30 days. That's very fast. Do you need help moving?" "Would you?" Caroline and James are both so busy. "Of course." What my parents didn't know, the buyer was Morgan Property Trust LLC. A legal entity I'd created with my attorney. I was the sole beneficiary. The trust was irrevocable. Protected from creditors, lawsuits, and family members who might have opinions about my decisions. On July 15, 2020, the sale closed. My parents walked away with $3.1 million. I became the owner of my childhood home. They never knew. After the sale, my parents moved into a senior living community in Bellevue. 2-bedroom apartment. $4,500 a month including amenities. They seemed happy. I hired a property management company to handle the house. Turned it into a high-end rental. Furnished it beautifully. Listed it at $6,200 a month. Found tenants within 2 weeks. A tech executive and his family relocating from California. 3-year lease. My parents thought I was still renting my 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill. They had no idea I owned a $3.1 million property that was generating $74,400 in annual rental income. At family dinners, now at their senior living community, Mom would talk about how smart they'd been to sell when they did. "The market is even crazier now," she'd say. "That house is probably worth $3.5 million. Actually, it had been appraised at $3.8 million in 2022. But I didn't correct her. "You were smart to sell," Caroline would agree. "We were. Now we have financial security. No more worrying about mortgages and maintenance." I'd smile and nod. Sip my wine. Say nothing. In 2022 things changed. Dad's health declined. He needed more care. The senior living community couldn't provide the level of medical support he required. They moved him to a nursing facility. $12,000 a month. Insurance covered some of it. But not enough. Mom stayed in the senior living apartment. $4,500 a month. Total monthly expenses for their housing and care. $16,500. Their retirement savings had been invested. But the market dropped in 2022. Their portfolio took a hit. They were withdrawing more than they should have been to cover expenses. At Thanksgiving 2022, Mom pulled me aside. "Rebecca, we need to talk." "What's wrong?" "Money is tight. Your father's care is expensive. More than we planned for." "I'm sorry. That's stressful." "Caroline and James have been helping. Sending money monthly. To help cover costs." "That's good of them. We were wondering if you could contribute too." "How much?" "Maybe $1,000 a month? We know you don't make as much as your siblings, but every bit helps." I did the math in my head. I was making $240,000 a year now as a principal engineer. My rental property was generating $74,400 annually. My investment portfolio was worth $4.2 million. "I can do that," I said. "Really? Rebecca, thank you. You're such a good daughter." I started sending $1,000 a month. Direct deposit into their account. What they didn't know. Caroline was sending $3,000 a month. James was sending $2,500 a month. My contribution was the smallest. Because I was already supporting them in a way they couldn't see. The house they'd sold, the one funding their retirement, I'd bought it. I owned it. The sale proceeds they were living on came from me. But they didn't know that. So they saw my $1,000 monthly contribution as generosity, while seeing Caroline and James's larger contributions as the real support. At Christmas dinner, Mom made a toast. To Caroline and James, who have been so generous in helping us through this difficult time. I raised my glass. Said nothing. In May 2023, Mom called me, crying. "Rebecca, we have a problem." "What happened?" "Your father's care is getting more expensive. He needs specialized treatment. The costs we can't keep up." "How much do you need?" "It's not just about needing more money. It's about sustainability. We're depleting our savings. The money from the house sale, it's not going to last as long as we thought." "What are you going to do?" "We've been talking to a financial advisor. He suggested we look at our assets." "Okay. The thing is, when we sold the house, we didn't structure the sale to minimize taxes properly. We took a big capital gains hit. It was a mistake. I knew that. I'd structured my purchase through the trust specifically to avoid that kind of mistake when I eventually sold." "That's unfortunate," I said. "Our advisor said we should have kept the house. Put it in a trust. Used it as a revenue-generating asset while protecting it from taxes and creditors. That would have been smart. But we sold it. And now that money is just sitting in investments that are losing value." I waited. "Rebecca, we're thinking about buying another property. A rental. Something that can generate income." "With what money?" "We still have about $1.8 million in savings. We could buy a smaller property. Rent it out. Use the income to offset your father's care costs." "That could work. We've been looking at properties. There's a townhouse in Ballard. $1.2 million. We could rent it for $4,000 a month." I did the math. $4,000 monthly rent minus property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and property management fees. They'd net maybe $2,500 a month. It would help, but it wouldn't solve their problem. "Have you talked to Caroline and James about this?" I asked. "James thinks it's a good idea. Caroline is worried about us taking on property management at our age." "That's valid. We're going to use a property management company. Like people do. Like I did, I thought. When are you buying?" "We're making an offer next week." They bought the Ballard townhouse in June 2023. $1.2 million. It took 4 months to find tenants. By the time they did, they'd spent $35,000 on updates and repairs the property management company said were necessary to command market rent. The tenants moved in October 2023. $3,800 a month. After expenses, my parents netted about $2,100 monthly. It helped. But it wasn't enough. In February 2024, Mom called again. "Rebecca, we need to have a family meeting. All of us." "About what?" "Your father's health. Our finances. The future." "Hey. When?" "This weekend. Can you come to our apartment?" "I'll be there." Saturday morning I drove to Bellevue. Caroline flew in from New York. James drove up from Portland where he'd moved for a new opportunity. We sat in Mom's living room. Dad was at the nursing facility. This meeting was about him, but without him. Mom looked tired. Older than her 68 years. Thank you all for coming, she started. I need to be honest with you about our financial situation. She laid it out. Dad's care was now costing $14,500 a month. Her apartment was $4,500. Total monthly expenses, $19,000. Their income, Social Security $3,800, investment withdrawals $6,000, and rental property income $2,100. Total, $11,900 monthly. Shortfall, $7,100 per month. Caroline and James have been contributing $5,500 combined. Rebecca contributes $1,000. That gets us to $18,400. We're still short $600 monthly, which comes from savings. How much is left in savings? James asked. $580,000. At our current burn rate, that's about 6.5 years. Your father's doctors say he could live another 10 years. The math was clear. They were going to run out of money. What are the options? Caroline asked. We need to increase income or decrease expenses. Dad's care is non-negotiable, James said. Agreed. Which means we need to look at other options. Mom took a breath. We've been thinking about the house. Our old house in Queen Anne. I went very still. We sold it for $3.1 million in 2020, Mom continued. It's probably worth $3.8 million now. If we kept it and rented it out, we'd be earning about $6,000 a month in rental income. That would solve our shortfall. But you sold it, Caroline said. I know. But we've been thinking. What if we could buy it back? James leaned forward. Who owns it now? A trust. Morgan Property Trust. We've been trying to find out who's behind it, but it's a legal entity. Very private. Have you reached out to them? I asked. My voice was calm. We tried. Through our real estate agent. No response. That's frustrating, Caroline said. It is. But here's what we're thinking. We have the Ballard townhouse. It's worth about $1.3 million now. We could sell it. Use that money plus some savings to make an offer on the Queen Anne house. You think they'd sell? James asked. Everyone has a price. If we offer enough. I sipped my water. Said nothing. How much would you offer? Caroline asked. Maybe $3.5 million. We'd have to take out a small mortgage, but the rental income would cover it plus generate extra cash flow. James was nodding. That could work. The Queen Anne house is bigger. Better rental market. Exactly. They were planning to buy back the house they'd sold to me. The house I currently owned. The house I'd purchased from them for $3.1 million and had no intention of selling. What do you think, Rebecca? Mom asked. I think you should do what's best for your finances. Would you be willing to contribute more monthly if we do this? Once the rental income starts, we wouldn't need as much from you kids. I'd consider it. The meeting ended with a plan. My parents would sell the Ballard townhouse. Use the proceeds to make an offer on the Queen Anne house. Try to solve their financial crisis by buying back the property they'd sold to me 4 years ago. I drove home in silence. That night I called my attorney David Brennan. Rebecca, what can I do for you? My parents want to buy back the house. The Queen Anne property? Yes. They're going to make an offer. Probably around $3.5 million. What do you want to do? I don't want to sell. Then don't. The trust is ironclad. You're the sole beneficiary. No one can force you to sell. They don't know I own it. Are you planning to tell them? I thought about it. About 4 years of silence. 4 years of being the smallest contributor to their financial needs while actually being their largest benefactor. 4 years of watching them assume I was less successful than my siblings. Not yet, I said. So you'll decline the offer? Through the trust. Make it look like an anonymous investor who's not interested in selling. I can do that. When they make the offer, I'll respond professionally. Decline on behalf of the trust. Clean and simple. Thank you. Rebecca, can I ask why you're not telling them? Because I want to see what they do next. 2 weeks later, my parents listed the Ballard townhouse for $1.35 million. It sold in 9 days for $1.32 million. They submitted an offer on the Queen and House through their agent. $3.5 million. All cash from the Ballard sale plus $2.18 million from their remaining savings. David responded on behalf of Morgan Property Trust. Thank you for your offer. The property is not currently for sale. The trust has long-term plans for this asset and is not considering offers at this time. My parents were devastated. They won't even negotiate, Mom told me over the phone. Just a flat no. I'm sorry. We put all our plans into this. Now we're back to square one. What will you do? I don't know. We have $1.32 million from the Ballard sale. We need to invest it somewhere that generates income. Maybe talk to a financial advisor? We are. But Rebecca, we're running out of options. Over the next 3 months, my parents spiraled. They bought another rental property. A condo in Renton. $625,000. Rented it for $2,400 a month. After expenses, they netted $1,200 monthly. They increased their investment withdrawals. Tried to make up the shortfall. Their savings dwindled. $580,000 became $450,000. Then $380,000. By August 2024, Mom called another family meeting. We need to make a difficult decision, she said. We were back in her apartment. Caroline, James, me. Dad was still in the nursing facility, his condition stable but requiring constant care. We can't sustain the current situation, Mom continued. We're depleting savings too fast. What are you proposing? Caroline asked. We need to increase contributions from you three. Significantly. How much? James asked. We need another $4,000 per month total. Split between the three of you. Caroline and James exchanged glances. That's $1,333 each, James said. Actually, Mom said quietly, we were hoping Caroline and James could each contribute $1,500. And Rebecca could contribute $1,000. Why less for Rebecca? Caroline asked. She makes less than you two. We don't want to burden her unfairly. I sat there, silent. The daughter who made less. Who needed to be protected from financial burden. While owning a $3.8 million property they'd once lived in. I can do $1,500, Caroline said. Same, James agreed. Rebecca. Mom looked at me. I'll do $1,000. Thank you, all of you. This means everything. New monthly contributions. Caroline $4,500 total. James $4,000. Me $2,000. Their shortfall was covered. For now. In November 2024, I received an email from my property management company. Rebecca, the tenants in the Queen and property gave notice. They're relocating to Austin for work. Lease ends January 31, 2025. I called them. Any interest in renewing? None. It's a job relocation. Definite move. Hey. Start marketing for new tenants. Will do. Just so you know, the market is strong. We could probably get $7,200 now instead of $6,200. Let's list at $7,000. I'd rather rent it quickly. Perfect. The property went on the market. Photos were posted online. Address visible. 3 days later, Mom called me. Rebecca, you're not going to believe this. What? Our old house is for rent. I saw the listing online. Really? $7,000 a month. Can you imagine? If we still owned it. That's a lot of money. It is. We'd have enough income to cover your father's care and then some. She paused. I have an idea. What? What if we rented it? Mom, you live in Bellevue. I know. But what if we rented it and then immediately subleased it? We could rent it for $7,000 and sublease it for $7,500. Make $500 a month in arbitrage. I don't think landlords allow subleasing. We could ask. Or, better idea. What if we told the landlord we wanted to rent it long-term, then approached them about buying it? You already tried that. But that was an anonymous offer. For tenants, we have a relationship. We could negotiate from inside. This was getting absurd. Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because it's dishonest. And risky. And probably against the lease terms. Rebecca, we're desperate. Your father needs care we can barely afford. This house, our house, could solve everything. It's not your house anymore. But it should be. We never should have sold it. It was a mistake. You can't undo the past. Maybe we can. Maybe if we rent it, we can convince the owner to sell. Mom, I'm going to apply. As a tenant. Just see what happens. She did. Morgan Property Trust received a rental application from Ellen Morgan, my mother, applying to rent the house she'd sold 4 years ago. The house I owned. My property manager called me. Rebecca, this is unusual. I know. What do you want me to do? Deny the application. On what grounds? Insufficient income. She only has Social Security and investment withdrawals. That doesn't meet the income requirements of 3 times monthly rent. That's true. She'd need an income of $21,000 monthly. She only shows about $9,800. Deny it. Professionally. Just say she doesn't meet income requirements. Done. Mom called me that evening, crying. They rejected my application. I'm sorry. They said insufficient income. But Rebecca, I was going to pay the full year up front. $84,000. I have that. I could show them the money. Maybe they have other applicants. This is our house. We should be living in it, not strangers. Mom, you sold it. You made that choice. It was the wrong choice. Don't you see? We should have kept it. Should have listened to the financial advisor from the beginning. Should have put it in a trust and rented it out. You're right. You should have. So help me fix it. How? I don't know. Talk to the landlord. Put in a good word. Something. I don't know the landlord. You're resourceful. You work in tech. You know people. Please, Rebecca. Help me. I took a breath. Mom, I can't help you buy a house you already sold. Why not? Because some decisions can't be undone. She hung up on me. Christmas 2024 was tense. We gathered at Mom's apartment. Dad was there in a wheelchair, mostly nonverbal but aware. Caroline and James were cheerful, talking about their work, their lives, their success. I was quiet. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside. Rebecca, I need to talk to you about something. Okay. She led me to her bedroom. Closed the door. On her bed were documents. Legal papers. What are these? I asked. I've been working with an attorney. Looking at options. For what? For the house. I went cold. Mom. Let me finish. When we sold the house to Morgan Property Trust in 2020, we sold it. Clean sale. But we've been looking at the deed records. The trust was created the same day as our sale. Same day, Rebecca. So whoever bought our house created that trust specifically to buy it. This wasn't some random investment company. This was someone who wanted our house specifically. Lots of people create trusts for real estate. We've been trying to figure out who's behind the trust. It's very private, very protected, but there are ways to find information. My heart was pounding. We hired a forensic investigator. Someone who specializes in uncovering beneficial owners of trusts and LLCs. Why? Because I want to know who's living in our house. Who took it from us? No one took it from you. You sold it. For $3.1 million. It's worth $3.8 million now. We left money on the table. That's not how sales work. Rebecca, the investigator, found something. He picked up a document. Handed it to me. It was a report. Financial forensics. Tracking the money from my parents' sale through various accounts and entities. And there on page 4 was my name. The purchase funds originated from an account at First Seattle Bank. Account holder, Rebecca Morgan. Transferred to Morgan Property Trust. Then used to purchase the property. I stared at the document. You bought our house, Mom said quietly. Yes. Why? Because you were going to sell it anyway. I wanted to keep it in the family. By lying to us? I didn't lie. You never asked who bought it. This is unconscionable. You let us think we sold to strangers. You let us struggle financially while owning a property that could solve all our problems. You sold it willingly. For a fair price. Above asking. You're our daughter. Which is why I paid you $3.1 million for a house worth $2.8 million. I gave you a gift. You just didn't know it. Mom's hands were shaking. We want it back. It's not for sale. Rebecca, please. Your father needs care. We're running out of money. That house could save us. You have the money from selling it. $3.1 million. That was supposed to fund your retirement. We made mistakes. We didn't plan for your father's health issues. For the market downturn. For life. You didn't plan for life. And now you want me to fix it by giving you back an asset I purchased legally and fairly. We're your parents. I know. Which is why I've been contributing $2,000 a month to your expenses. On top of the $3.1 million I already gave you for the house. That's not enough. Then sell your condo and rent in. Downsize your apartment. Cut expenses. Do what every other retiree does when they need to adjust their lifestyle. Or you could just give us the house back. No. No. It's my house. I bought it. I own it. It's not for sale. Not to you. Not to anyone. Mom stared at me. When did you become so cold? When I realized that no matter what I did, it would never be enough for you. Caroline and James contribute more, so they're the good children. I contribute less, so I'm the one who needs to be protected. But none of you know that I'm the one who bought the house. Who owns the asset. Who could actually solve your problems if I wanted to. So solve them. Why should I? The question hung in the air. Because we're family, Mom said. Family. Right. The family that kicked me out of that house for a sale that took 4 years to happen. The family that assumes I make less and contribute less and matter less. The family that never once asked about my actual success because you were too busy comparing me to Caroline and James. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. But it is what it is. Mom called an emergency family meeting. The day after Christmas. Everyone needs to be here, she told Caroline and James. This is important. We gathered again in her apartment. This time tension filled the room. Mom had printed copies of the forensic report. She handed them to Caroline and James. Rebecca has something to tell you, Mom said. Caroline read the report. Her eyes widened. You bought Mom and Dad's house? Yes. When? July 2020. I bought it from them for $3.1 million. James was reading his copy. Through a trust. Yes. Morgan Property Trust. I'm the sole beneficiary. Why didn't you tell us? Caroline asked. Because it was my business. My investment. My decision. But this is the house we grew up in, James said. Which they chose to sell. I chose to buy it. Mom stood. She's been collecting rent on it for 4 years. Making money off a house we should still own. You got $3.1 million from the sale, I said calmly. That's $200,000 over your asking price. You walked away with a significant profit. But if we kept it and rented it ourselves, you would have had to manage it, maintain it, deal with tenants, pay taxes. You didn't want that. You wanted the cash. You got the cash. Caroline was reading through the details. You paid $3.1 million cash. Where did you get that kind of money? I had equity from a company acquisition. Plus savings. Plus investments. You had $3 million at 28 years old? James looked stunned. Yes. How? I worked. I saved. I invested. I built a career. The same way you two did. But you never said. Because every family dinner was about Caroline's cases and James's deals. There was never space for my success. So I stopped sharing it. Mom jumped in. This isn't about success. This is about family. About helping us when we need it. I have helped you. $2,000 a month. Plus the $3.1 million purchase that gave you retirement funds in the first place. But you won't give us the house back. Because it's not yours to have back. You sold it. The transaction is complete. We didn't know we were selling it to you. Would it have mattered? You needed the money. I paid you fairly. The sale would have happened regardless. Caroline set down the report. Rebecca, I understand you're hurt. But Mom and Dad are in a difficult position financially. I know. I've been contributing to help. But you have the means to solve the problem completely. You could sell them the house back at cost. Or even at a small profit. Help them generate the rental income they need. Why should I? The room went silent. Because they're our parents, Caroline said quietly. And I'm their daughter. Have they ever asked about my success? My career? My life beyond whether I'm contributing enough financially? No one answered. I bought that house because I wanted to preserve it. Keep it in the family. I've maintained it beautifully. I've rented it to good tenants. I've treated it with respect. Then let us rent it, Mom pleaded. No. Why? Because you'll try to buy it back. You'll scheme and negotiate and make my life miserable trying to get ownership. I know how this works. That's not true. You hired a forensic investigator to find out who owned it. You applied to rent it with plans to sublease it. You've been treating this like a game to win instead of a closed transaction. James leaned forward. What do you want, Rebecca? I want to be left alone. I want to own my property in peace. I want to stop being treated like the family member who doesn't matter unless you need something from me. That's not how we treat you, Mom said. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Really? When's the last time you asked about my work? My life? Anything beyond my monthly contribution? Silence. That's what I thought. Mom pulled out another document. Fine. You want to be treated differently? Here. She slid papers across the table. A purchase agreement. We're offering $3.4 million for the house. That's the current appraised value. We'll pay you in full. You'll make $300,000 profit on a 4-year investment. Plus whatever rent you've collected. I've collected $298,200 in rent over 4 years. Minus $87,000 in property taxes, insurance and maintenance. Net rental income, $211,200. They stared at me. So total profit if I sold today, $511,200. That's a 16.5% return over 4 years. Exactly. You've done well. Now sell it back to us and everyone wins. Except I don't want to sell. Why? You just said you've made a good profit. Because it's not about profit. It's about principle. What principle? The principle that you don't get to kick me out of my childhood home, sell it because you wanted the cash, then demand I give it back when your financial planning doesn't work out. Mom's face went red. We didn't kick you out. We needed to downsize. You told me you were selling. Then you didn't sell for 4 years. By then I'd already moved out and established my own life. The sale wasn't about downsizing. It was about cashing in. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Mom. You taught me that every time you compared me to Caroline and James. Caroline stood. Rebecca, this is getting out of hand. Is it? Or is it finally honest? What do you want? James asked again. I looked at my family. My mother who'd hired an investigator. My siblings who contributed more money than me because they assumed I had less. I want you to sign something, I said. What? I pulled out a document I'd had David draft. Just in case. It's a family agreement. It states that Morgan Property Trust's ownership of the Queen and property is acknowledged and accepted by all family members. That no further attempts will be made to purchase, rent, or claim the property. That my ownership is respected and final. You want us to sign away our rights to our own house? Mom was incredulous. It's not your house. It hasn't been your house since July 15, 2020. This just formalizes that reality. And if we don't sign? Then I stop contributing financially. No more $2,000 a month. You figure out Dad's care on your own. You can't do that. I can. And I will. You have a choice. Sign the agreement and I continue contributing $2,000 monthly, possibly more if I see genuine respect for my boundaries. Or refuse to sign and you get nothing from me. Caroline grabbed the agreement. Read through it. This is actually reasonable. It just says we acknowledge Rebecca's ownership and won't pursue the property. I won't sign, Mom said. Then I won't contribute, I replied. Rebecca, James started. I'm done being the family member who doesn't matter until you need money. Done being dismissed. Done being underestimated. Sign the agreement or don't. But make a choice. They signed. Mom did it last, her hand shaking with rage. But she signed. There, she said. Happy. Not particularly. But clear. You've destroyed this family, she said. I've set boundaries. If that destroys us, We weren't much of a family to begin with. I gathered the signed agreements. Handed copies to everyone. I'll continue contributing $2,000 monthly, I said. If Dad's care needs increase, talk to me. I'll consider increasing my contribution. But the house is off the table. Permanently. Fine, Mom said coldly. I left the apartment. Drove back to Seattle. To my actual residence. A 3-bedroom penthouse in Madison Park worth $2.7 million that my family still didn't know I owned. It's now June 2025. 6 months since the confrontation. I still contribute $2,000 monthly. Mom and I speak politely but distantly. Caroline and James are confused but accepting. The Queen and house has new tenants. A family from Google. 3-year lease. $7,500 a month. My parents sold the Renton condo. Invested the proceeds in dividend-paying stocks. It helped, but they're still financially stressed. Last week Mom called. Rebecca, I need to apologize. For what? For how I treated you. For years. You were right. I compared you to your siblings constantly. Made you feel less than. And when you turned out to be more successful than I realized, I felt embarrassed. Okay. I'm sorry. Truly. Thank you. The house. I understand now why you bought it. Why you kept it. It wasn't about hurting us. It was about preserving something that mattered to you. It was. Can we start over? Try to have a real relationship. Maybe. It'll take time. I have time. Your father's condition is stable. We're managing. And I want to know my daughter. The real you. Not the version I invented in my head. I'd like that. We're trying. It's awkward. But honest. Caroline called yesterday. You know, I'm impressed. With what you've built. How you handled everything. Thanks. I'm sorry we didn't see you clearly. You saw what I showed you. Still. We should have looked harder. James sent me an email. Asked if I'd be willing to consult on some of his real estate investments. Paid consulting. Professional relationship. I said yes. The house sits in Queen Anne. Beautiful. Maintained. Generating income. My childhood home. My investment property. My proof that silence can be strategic. I didn't need them to see me clearly to build my success. But it's nice finally to be seen. The sale papers Mom wanted me to sign that day, the ones where she tried to sell my property without my consent, are framed in my office now. A reminder. Not of conflict. But of clarity. The moment I stopped being invisible in my own family. The moment I showed them the deed. And everything changed.